is just the wish to light our chalice and share our chalice lighting reading.
This is Give Thanks, Feel Alive, Know Love by Reverend Mila Duran Jones. As we light this flame, we remember friends and loved ones near and far, and we give thanks. As this fire burns brightly, we open our minds and hearts to new ways of being and feeling alive. As the room glows with warmth and kindness, we extend our circle ever wider to welcome those who want to come in. And we know love.
Are we supposed to play this song now? Sorry, what? I'm trying to remember what we do now.
On the screen.
Yeah. Bear with us. Do we do the song or the reading now? Thank you.
Reading would be better right now.
Do the reading. Thank you.
This morning's beginning reading comes from Pema Chodron, who is a Tibetan Buddhist nun and an incredible teacher, one of my gurus. There's a common misunderstanding among all the human beings who have ever been born on Earth, that the best way to live is to try to avoid pain and just get comfortable. You see this even in insects and animals and birds. All of us are the same. A much more interesting, kind, and joyful approach to life is to begin to develop our curiosity, not caring whether the object of our curiosity is bitter or sweet. To lead a life that goes beyond pettiness and prejudice and always wanting to make sure that everything turns out on our own terms. To lead a more passionate, full, and delightful life than that. We must realize that we can endure a lot of pain and pleasure for the sake of finding out who we are and what this world is, how we tick and how our world ticks, how the whole thing just is. If we are committed to comfort at any cost, as soon as we come up against the least edge of pain, we're going to run. We'll never know what's beyond that particular barrier or wall or fearful thing.
No, we're going to do it. We got it. Thanks to Mary. So this video, the first song is in the hymnal, if folks want a hymnal and want to sing that way, or you can just watch what's on the screen.
What's the song?
Be kind.
Filled with loving kindness. I think it's 1031. Well, hopefully it works. Oh, we have to connect to Mary's YouTube. Shoot. So we don't. Can you? Yeah.
Well, technology is not our friend today, people.
May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be well. May I be filled with loving
We should do it somewhere.
kindness.
From the slideshow, though.
I be well.
Okay, let's start again.
So I'm very excited to hear from our speaker, who is Shauna Ahern. Shauna and her family are beloved members of the UF family. Shauna is a storyteller and facilitator of connected conversations about things that matter. She's also the founder of the School of Kind.
Thank you, Paul. It's really good to be back. Before I start talking, I'd like to invite all of us to take 3 deep breaths. If you will, close your eyes. And if you want to follow this suggestion, when you close your eyes, put your right hand on your heart and your left hand on your gut. And simply take 3 deep breaths. Sure. You don't need to talk about that experience, but I would like to see how many of you, raise your hand, if you feel a little more spacious after those 3 breaths, a little more calm, a little more open to receiving. Sometimes I realize we make life far more complicated than it is. 3 deep breaths bring us back to our bodies. And being kind, if we use it as a measurement, a guiding light in our lives, it can change everything. And that's what I want to talk to you about today. So I'm excited to see new faces here. I'm really grateful to see very familiar people, wonderfully familiar faces. And if I've known you for years, I want you to know that I am not the same Shauna Ahern you once knew. And I have a feeling if you were to answer that question, you're not either. A lot of us changed pretty profoundly in the last 2.5 years, possibly almost 3. And I'm really excited to meet the you that you are now after these hard times. You see, the last time I was in this building, everything in my life felt different. I thought, sure, I knew the trajectory of my life and my mind. I knew the road ahead. I certainly knew all my opinions, and I sometimes proclaimed them loudly. I was happily married with 2 adorable, irascible kids. My memoir had come out only a few months before. I had more books in my head. Life felt solid and stretched out ahead, not a cloud on the horizon. And then came the storm of COVID. As must be true for so many of you, these last 2.5 years have been some of the hardest of my life. And now I stand in front of you shattered. Still rattled by the path of destruction that blew through my family during these paralyzing, terrible years. Still learning more of how we have been broken. Starting to thaw from the frostbite of these years of being in the house and living in fear constantly. When you've been frozen, the thawing is when you start to feel the pain. And I'm seeing it everywhere around me, the pain of thawing. At least half of the marriages of my friend group are ending in divorce. These are people no one ever thought would divorce. It seems that being in the house together for a full year, then moving outside cautiously after the vaccines emerged, meant people spent so much time together that they began to see clearly who they were and what their relationship was. The women I know say they never saw before just how deeply divided and unfair the division of emotional labor was in their house and in their relationships before they spent all their time together, and they still did all the emotional labor or most of it. And then it was glaring. Businesses are closing. Nonprofits on Vashon seem to be imploding right now. You know, executive directors are leaving community. It really is very interesting. That's just Vashon. Politically and culturally, we seem deeply divided. It seems people don't even know how to talk with each other anymore. I don't know if that's actually true, but it's the story we're all being told. And it seems to me that my family is not the only one that has suffered deeply. And yet, I also stand before you more clear about my work in the world than I ever have been before. When I took refuge as a Buddhist 22 years ago, I was given a new Buddhist name, Chima Pema. That means ever blossoming lotus flower. The lotus flower grows out of the muck and mud. There are no other growing conditions to produce lotus. This, I realize, is the essence of who I am. My Buddhist teacher sensed something essential about me when she named me. I keep growing. The hardest times have taught me the most in my life. And every time I have lived in darkness, the light begins to see. I see a crack in everything, as Leonard Cohen said. That's where the light gets in. So during COVID and these dark times, I turned toward what I knew by heart. I started reading Pema Chodron every morning, particularly the book, The Wisdom of No Escape. Every morning, starting in July, when the facade of our family cracked and shattered, I read one more paragraph of that book. At the time, I could only read one paragraph at a time. Afterwards, as I sat outside on our porch, facing the sunrise while the kids slept, I sat meditation. I've been practicing daily for 22 years, but this mindfulness practice had the quality of urgency I hadn't felt for a while. Breathing in, I know I'm breathing in. Breathing out, I know I'm breathing out. For the first month, that's all I could do over and over again. Breathing in. I know I'm breathing in. I'm breathing out. I know I'm breathing out. This particular mindfulness practice come from Thich Nhat Hanh, but they actually are the first instruction of the Buddha on how to meditate. Over and over during those morning sessions and all through the day, I would just catch myself feeling uncertain and scared, my heart hurting. Uncertainty felt like spikes of pain in my heart. And nothing in my life seemed to be certain. But I had my breath. It was always there. And if I had my breath, I realized over the next few weeks, I have my body. When COVID began, I felt in my body that this was going to be a long siege. Remember how hilarious it is now that they said lockdown is going to last for 6 weeks. That feels pretty funny. I laugh about that often now because if you don't laugh, if you don't have that sense of playfulness in your heart and your mind, well, then you're just going to keep going into your head, which is that ether region of doubt and sometimes being unkind. So I listened to my breath, I listened to my body, and I turned back to my most essential friend, which is my curiosity. I was born deeply curious. I wanted to know everything. I loved learning, always have. Anything that someone is deeply passionate about, I want to hear their passion. I still remember an NPR story. I pulled over in the middle of Seattle to listen to it, and it was an iron worker who'd been an iron worker for 30 years, and his passion in talking about this practice that had brought him not only financial success, but clearly mindfulness and a sense of action and a sense of commitment and a sense of purpose in the world. I still remember pulling over on Olive Street and listening to him thinking, that's so cool. I didn't want to become an iron worker. Somebody else might have. Somebody else might have heard that and said, that's it. That's my purpose in life. I need to become an iron worker. That was not my purpose in life. So my curiosity kicked in. In fact, it kicked in all through COVID. It became stronger and stronger and more essential to who I am. I've always been a learner. I've been a lifelong learner since the moment I was born. I started to learn to read at 3. At 5, when I was in kindergarten, my teacher used to sit me on a stool and have me read books to the entire class while she went for a coffee break. Yeah. I recognize it now. I was a teacher. She needs some time off. I have never, ever, ever wanted to stop learning. The darkest times of my life is when I felt like I shut down on learning. And when COVID started and we realized, oh my God, we're going to be in the house for 6 weeks with the kids, which is pretty funny now. I woke up one night in a cold sweat. What am I going to do? Not the 6 weeks, but I knew instantly in my body that the way I had been raised, which was terribly isolated, and in fact, in a lot of ways, abusive, traumatic, unbelievable, crazy. When I tell this story now, people are like, wait, what? That kind of life. I woke up that night and thought, what am I going to do? This is going to be just like my childhood. My body's going to be reliving it over and over again. We're going to be stuck in the house. We can't go outside because something dangerous is out there and we have to restrict all our activities. Duh! And I walked upstairs holding that thought about what am I going to do? And then I swear to goodness, this is one of the wildest things that's happened to me, but I was upstairs and the dark sky was outside, and suddenly on those dark clouds, the word joy appeared on the dark clouds. And I held it in my body and I thought about it, and I stayed up most of the rest of the nights thinking, that's it. I didn't know joy as a kid. I didn't know playfulness. I didn't know the feeling that things could be uncertain. My mother clamped down and needed control on everything, including where we could move from the bedroom to the kitchen and how we could do it. My job was to hew to her wishes and make sure that her fears never came to full height. Well, how was I going to do this? And it was joy. And so within a couple of days, I turned to the kids and to Danny and I said, you know what? Screw the academics. We are not making a color-coded organizer of what lessons you're doing at what time. We are going to have you do some homework and the rest is joy. I don't know how many bottles of bubbles we bought. Lucy rollerbladed on the back deck. We watched every Marvel movie in succession, starting from the moment that the election was declared over until the day of the inauguration, because I didn't want to turn on the news. And it turns out that Marvel and Star Wars and Harry Potter and all the sagas we love so much, they all have the same stories. It's that heroic journey. It's so obvious when you look at it, and it's not wrong because it's the story of the human heart. Do we want to stay closed? Do we want to resist the call? Do we want to stay safe? Do we want our lives to be predetermined and small? Or do we want to listen to the guide and accept the call and go on this wild journey of trials and tribulations, temptations, successes, failures, physical battle, sometimes feeling the lowest you've ever felt, until, like Harry Potter at the end, like Luke Skywalker, like Black Panther, you find out that if you're going to be a hero, it was always within you. You just had to pay attention to what you knew by heart and throw away the rest. And this is what saved me. And this is why, strangely, paradoxically, until this July, I was doing better in COVID than I ever had before. But it turns out some members of my family were not. The best thing I ever did during COVID was on Sunday mornings, I held a free Zoom for anyone who subscribed to my newsletter who wanted to show up. Pamela was one of them. And for essentially 2 years, every single Sunday, we showed up with no other agenda other than to share our joys and concerns, to talk about what was hard, to listen to each other's stories, to recommend podcast episodes and movies we'd seen. And what emerged slowly from this thing that felt essential to me was, I think this is my work. I still write, but being in a group of like-minded women, or like-minded people, all vulnerably showing up, open, no judgment, ready to receive each other, and laughing a lot. Well, that was mindfulness. And what I realized was my mindfulness practice did not have to be tied to the cushion, but I could use it for the work I do. So I started offering joy workshops. And the women who've taken them have told me it has changed their life. And I was set. I'm going to do a joy workshop. That's what I'll do forever. And it's a strange idea for most people when they hear, I want to help you cultivate a habit of joy. A habit of joy? How can joy be a habit? Isn't that like habits are like you need quick bad habits, right? Well, guess what? I'm a neuroscience geek and I love neuroplasticity, which is really the only concept we understand in the last 40 to 50 years. And it was a woman who determined it, by the way, Marion Diamond. You know that whole, you can't teach an old dog new tricks? It's not true. It's not true one bit. We always have available the chance to open and to learn a new way of being. Not only did that fit in with my mindfulness training, but it also gave me such relief. And so I became obsessed with the science of habit making. I read every book. I watch videos on neuroplasticity for fun at night. Okay, so this is where I am. How could I not include this in what I do? It's what I love. And I do believe anything you do for free that helps other people is what you should do in life. So I threw in like how to build a habit, which is actually for most of us, and particularly women, we don't know how to give ourselves joy. We wait. We wait for vacation or for things to get better. We wait for the ideal conditions when we can relax. That's no way to live. It turns out that if you build a habit of joy by giving yourself, at the end, we've built up to 3 30-minute periods in one day. Crazy, 90 minutes of joy a day. Your whole life feels better. And when things get hard and you have made this as a habit, you still keep back to your joy habit because it's now a buoy in turbulent waters. And that's what happened in July. And in teaching joy, I realized you can't talk about joy without gratitude. There's no way to talk about joy without also developing a habit of being grateful to everything today. This is why I had yes tattooed on my wrist, because it's a reminder for me to say yes to everything that happens as it is, instead of wishing it to be different. It's a radical way to live. I don't always do it, but it is more and more the way I live. So I taught gratitude and joy workshops. And then of course we had to talk about playfulness because we've all forgotten how to play, particularly during COVID. And it turns out, of course, there's an entire neuroscience of play because, as Mr. Rogers said, play is the most sacred form of learning. So it turns out your body and your brain are much better if you do balance acts. Go to the playground and balance and run around on the playground. Or just set up something in your house, they've got these little teeter-totter boards, which teach you how to skateboard, which aren't Kiddo D, who's not here today, hopefully you know now. They know, excuse me. Just build something together with people. Go ahead, play with Legos. Get some Duplo for yourself and build houses and just give yourself time to be silly and playful. And don't say, this is not, I'm an adult. That's not right. Go ahead and play. And here's what came through for me in the through line of all this, which took me a long time. And it came to me about, 3 months ago after things got really hard. What I know for sure is that kindness matters. When I taught high school at Vashon High School in the early 90s, I had so many quotes up on my walls. My students would talk to me all the time, like, what does that quote mean? And there was Aristotle, and then there were musicians, and the whole place was festooned with quotes. And sometimes I put them up because I knew them by heart. And sometimes I put them up because I felt like I should know this by heart. Maybe these kids should too. And the one that comes back to me the most is from Isaac Bashevis Singer, who wrote, kindness, it turns out, is the only thing that matters. So I ask you this question and you don't have to answer. How kind are you to yourself? You may be incredibly gracious, generous, nice. Nice is a dirty word for me. Nice is people pleasing, and nice is a coping mechanism, by the way. If you've gone through trauma of any kind, you learn to be nice, perhaps, because you had to appease the people who were dangerous to you. And then you just keep doing it because it's what you know. Let me be the one to make the muffins for my entire advanced world literature class. Hi. Oh, you need another meal training? I'm exhausted. Of course I can do that. Nice is not the same as kind. Kind is wholehearted. Kind is a chance for you to take a breath and decide for yourself how much you need the kindness at that moment. I took many Buddhist meditation retreats when I lived in New York City, one a month for 18 months, and it was called Warrior Training with Trish and Bala. And it was rewriting the notion of warrior. We think of it as men with guns. I've had it with men and guns. Instead, a warrior, according to Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche and the teachings I did, a warrior is someone who can feel so deeply and not run away from that feeling, that if a fly lands on her heart, she can feel the fly's feet on her heart. Warriorship is truly sticking with the moment. It's being here no matter what. And it's extending kindness to the person you're with or the people you're with by being honest and true. And saying what you feel. Because here's the thing, this is one of the deepest kindnesses you can give to yourself and other people. You have to say the hard things. You can't hold back. You can't make sure you're not saying something that could be hurtful. If something's going on in a relationship, we need to tell the other person. We can't decide to hide it until it feels like it'll go away. And I saw this last night. So with all this work, I'm launching it this week. I've created what I call my work, and it's called the School of Kind. It's called the School of Kind because we all got inculcated with messages from school, from society, from our parents that you're not good enough. That's not the way to behave. Sit up straight. You should be getting good grades. Really? You're gonna wear a skirt that low, that high? Think of the thousands and thousands of stories you have embedded in your body that someone told you before that you believe. These are the stories you tell yourself about who you are. And they're called limiting stories. Now, sometimes people will call these limiting beliefs. I don't call it that because a belief is hard to break. I believe entirely in the first tenet of Unitarian Universalists. Every human being has the same inherent worth and dignity. You're not going to change that belief in me. There are lots of people who don't believe that. And you're probably not going to change their ideas either. But a story, I'm a writer. You can revise a story. You can edit it. You can take whole chunks out of it. And if after reading it, you think, yeah, this isn't even true, you can shuck it. You can let it go. We are filled with limiting stories, and they're called limiting stories because any story we tell ourselves, I can't do that. I won't be good at that. I'm too scared. Nobody will like me. Those stories we tell ourselves limit the possibility of us being in the present moment. Anything you tell yourself that means, I'm not doing that. You've now limited the possibility of being here as you are. And that's not kind. That's not kind to you. That's not kind of the person you're with. That's not kind of the people you're meeting. Now, we are built of thousands upon thousands, and it's like a whole network of neurons of limiting stories. It's not going to change in a day. But when you start to look at them, here's what I've discovered. And this is definitely based on the Four Noble Truths by the Buddha. Recognize that you're suffering. It drives me a little wild when people will, and it happened to me a couple of weeks ago at a facilitation training where people say, oh, as the Buddhists say, everything is suffering. It's the most depressing religion. And I said, hi, I'm sorry to interrupt. I'm a Buddhist and you've got that wrong. The Buddha didn't say life is suffering. He said life contains suffering. It's hard to be a person. That's just the nature of life. And if we're always looking for the golden bridge and the next big job and the thing that will make us feel like, now I can be comfortable and not have to think about this, that's suffering too. So in order to become kinder to yourself, you have to realize that there's suffering in life. And what's the cause of that suffering? Those limiting stories. Those stories you're telling yourself about how you need to be rich, or I'm always late, or people don't like me, or whatever it is. Anything you do that limits how you see yourself in the world and prevents you from being here right now, that's the cause of your suffering. Not because you're poor. It's because the story you tell yourself about not having enough money. It's not because you are overweight. That's the story people told you about how you're not good enough because you're overweight. It's not because you're not in a relationship. Think about anything that causes you suffering and start to look at the limiting story you tell yourself without thinking. It's unconscious. It's been so much a part of who we are and how we live that we don't even see it. So that's the cause of the suffering. How do you get out of the cause of the suffering? How do you change this? You start becoming more curious about your limiting stories. You start asking yourself a simple question. And here's what I do every time something comes up. Oh, this is going to be bad. I stop myself. You have to take that pause. The pause is everything. 3 deep breaths. And then I say, is that true? Just that. Is that true? Is it true that everyone will hate me? Is it true that my life is going to be terrible? Is it true that my relationship will never work if I ask this question? No. It's just that little bit of pause between that feeling and, is that true? And the other question I ask myself, I wonder why I'm thinking that. That's curiosity. You're not looking for answers. You're not looking for someone to fix you. It's just, I wonder. It's that it matters. It's kind of friendly. It's kind of like, interesting. I'm attacking myself again. I wonder why. And then the investigation of the why is your lifelong work. And then because you realize that the limiting stories and the way you treat yourself are the cause of your suffering, then you can commit to the path, which is, in my mind, developing the habit of mindfulness, cultivating a habit of gratitude, understanding that you need a habit of joy, and deciding to develop a habit of becoming more playful, not taking yourself so seriously. I did it all the time, for decades. Come on, guys. We're only here for a brief time, and the universe is enormous. Isn't it absolutely hilarious that at some point there's someone worrying that their dinner burnt when there is the cosmos, and we're not going to be here for long? If you get pretty playful about this, you can learn to not take yourself so seriously. So becoming kind to yourself, committing to that, learning mindfulness and gratitude and joy and playfulness. That path will help you to let go of your old stories, and you can start to write new ones. And the ultimate goal is to embrace yourself for who you are, exactly who you are. Exactly who you are. All of you in this room add something extraordinary to the lives of everyone else here and everyone else you meet. Do we really need a culture where everyone acts exactly the same? Where everyone moves lockstep for what the dear leader says? We need our wackos. We need our weirdos. We need our incessantly curious people about neuroscience. We need you, if you have ADHD, to be like, yeah, I'm probably never going to show up on time. I'm trying, but it's ADHD. That's my brain. I'm doing the best I can. We need you to be enthusiastic about life. We need you to be the person who's an evangelizer, something you love. Have you heard about this? Just this group of women I've been working with. After the group I worked with Pamela, I have a group of women. I started Camp Curiosity this summer, and 49 women showed up, which was one of the best gifts of this summer for me. And we did 3 Zooms a week, and one of them was just a laugh. We got together and we just said, what made you laugh this week? And I put up that GIF or put up that meme or put up that thing, and we just laughed for an hour and a half. And they loved it so much that in the end, 14 women said, I can't have this end, not just because they wanted to be with me, but really the real reason was they developed me with each other. And they didn't want to see Mylene go, or Sarah, or Kim. And so I said, sure, let's do another 8 weeks. And I set them a low price, and they showed up, and then we just started another 8 weeks. And I imagine that we're going to do the entire School of Kind together just from that. They mean the world to me. That connection has been the antidote to both COVID and then the hard times that we've been going through. Because I deeply believe that curiosity always leads to connection. Mm-hmm. Curiosity leads you to new ideas, new people, new groups of people, new books to read, new podcasts to listen to, new parts of your mind you didn't know existed before. Incuriosity leads to tiny little cell. Here's what I think, here's what I believe, you're not going to change me. Going outside, too scary. I'm just going to stay here and I'm going to do this. It's worked for me my entire life. Maybe not that great, but I'm alive. Here's what I do. That's the prison. Curiosity leads to connection and open space. So that's what I do now. I'm still a writer. Still like talking. But I'm not the Vashon Ahern I was before. And I keep learning. I mentioned something happened last night. We've been having a really, really, really hard 5 months. Not really ending anytime soon. And I earn 90% of the money in our family, which I'm fine with, also been fine. But when life shatters, it's hard to go out and find new work. So things have been really tough. And we have been really teetering on the edge of that moment financial security we need. So last night I wrote a heartfelt note to women I believed I could trust and sent it out. Said, here's the whole story, and here's why I need some help, and if you can help, thank you. So one of several of this women did. Last night I sent it out as a text message that led to a Google Doc, and last night I saw what? And there were these audio messages from one of the women in the group that she'd said hit play all, even though I said no, play all. And I listened to them and burst into tears. Someone I thought was a friend, someone who has been helping me through all this. It turns out that she'd sent the very vulnerable letter I had written and sent it to a friend so they could talk shit about me. So these audio messages were meant to go to this friend, but they ended up on the reply all to everyone I had sent instead. What is wrong with her? She just keeps changing the name of the business she's doing. I mean, like, nobody's going to care about this stuff. She just offers this like blah, blah, blah stuff about compassion and gratitude. She's a therapist. And it was 3 viciously unkind messages. I burst into tears, of course. I don't never afraid anymore bursting into tears. But what kept hitting me over and over again was like, this isn't kind. It just isn't kind. What in God's earth would make you go back to middle school, take a vulnerable letter, send it to another friend who's also a therapist, and have a going conversation back and forth about how ridiculous I am, how I'm clearly going to fail, how nobody's going to care. And I went to bed devastated. And I woke up this morning and thought, be grateful to anything, Shauna. Be grateful for everything. Here's this moment. And you know what I realized? This isn't about me. It's her. Something about the work I'm offering in kindness is really threatening her. And even though she met me for coffee and has checked in on me, she's been holding these pent up frustrations and annoyances with me. And she never bothered to tell me. And I had to hear it in an audio message meant for someone else. But you know what I realized pretty quickly? Wow, this work I'm doing must be pretty powerful. And this isn't a friend. In the past, I would have, what's going on? What did I do? Where's she going? And I wrote back to her this morning and I said, oh, she sent me a apology request. It was pent up frustration. And I was really tired. And I said, it's this friend, it's no one you know. Defense, walls. And I wrote back to her and said, I hear you that you've apologized and I forgive you. But I also know that I would never talk to anyone or about anyone this way in my entire life. I don't talk to anyone or about anyone like this ever because I've been working on kindness. And I send you release from the pent up frustration and we are not friends. Please don't contact me ever again. And I'm fine. I came here to give this talk. I'm fine. The power of kindness is so extraordinary that people who cannot be kind to themselves are deeply threatened. That tells us we all need to work on being kind to ourselves. So the next time that you think, oh, something's bothering me, I don't want to bring it up. I don't want to bring it up. Talk with your person. Don't let it stay in there and let it fester. It's not kind to you, it's not kind to that person. And essentially, you need to know the truth. The last 5 minutes have been really hard, but at least I feel clear. I know what's going on. And I know how to be kind to myself. And I've gone back to long walks. I've gone back to meditating every morning. I've gone back to writing every morning, which seems pretty essential, but I'm caught up in trying to make things work for the business. I dropped my own writing. I signed up with Vashon Strong, and it turns out that lifting really heavy shit is a great meditation for me. I love doing bench presses. Who knew? Because, and here's the last thought I want to leave you with. Close your eyes if you want. If you can, think about a really, really hard time in your life, a time when you felt shattered, a time when you thought everything I knew is gone. You probably still feel pain. Now, ask your body, what gifts arrived because of that time? What did you learn? Who did you let go from your life that turned out to be toxic? How did you learn to be kinder to yourself from this? How did you learn to drop the shame? Did you learn to speak your truth more clearly? Did you pick up a new hobby that now is important to you? Raise your hand if you can think of at least one gift that arrived out of that really hard time. Cultivate that. That's kindness too. You cannot, as Pema Chodron said, try to stay comfortable all the time. Because comfort is where we learn. And if we're kind to ourselves, we don't fight it away. We stay. So I encourage you, cultivate a habit to become kinder to yourself. It will change your life. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Shauna. You know, what she had to say gives me a lot to think about. I'd like to invite you to join me in a moment of silent reflection on Shauna's words and thoughts today.
The next thing we're gonna do is a song. I think it's in the hymnal, it's Spirit of Life. It's a really popular UU one. It's number 500 and something or other. Excuse me, number 123. Through miracles of life. We're not gonna show it on the screen. So just close your eyes and sing along. People on Zoom, thank you for your patience and being here. Mary, thank you for saving the day with your laptop. Thank you for everyone's kindness with me. So Spirit of Life. Get there if you can, if not, just enjoy this. My heart,
We're going to pause now for the recording as we prepare ourselves to hear joys and concerns. I'm lighting this candle for the unspoken joys and concerns within and beyond our community. Please join as you feel comfortable in the singing of There Is a Lot. As members and friends of the Vashon Island Unitarian Fellowship, we commit to supporting our fellowship. Financial resources help us pay speakers and staff, support our social justice programs, maintain our building lease, and enable us to purchase those items that add to the smooth running of each service. Please support VIUF with your pledges and offerings so that we can continue to be a vital community. Once a month, our offering is donated to a nonprofit organization, mostly local, that aligns with our values of social and economic justice, peace, freedom, and belief and or protection of our planet and its inhabitants. In furtherance of this, of our valuing of the work of reparations, this week's offering supports the Seattle Indian Health Board. And Kim will tell us why.
Thank you. The Seattle Indian Health Board is a nonprofit that works to maintain the treaty rights of providing medical care for urban Indians and Indians that or natives who are just in our area, and they're hoping to branch out and run a rehab and recovery center because their native healing arts that they have practiced, their recovery center in the Seattle area has the lowest amount of recidivism, I always say that, of any 28-day rehab program or whatever in the Western states. And they believe it's because they treat people using the wisdom of the ages. And there's some discussion that hopefully they can have a facility here on Vashon, because as you know, we've lost 3 Native women in the past 7 months to alcohol poisoning. So please dig deep. It's a small part of our reparation that we give, but and you'll be asked at some point, I hope, to sign petitions and so on to bring that facility to our island. Thank you.
I now invite our greeters to come up and pass around the offering basket. Checks can be made out to the IUF with the notation that it supports the Seattle Indian Health Board, or a donation can be made directly to them. And if so, we suggest that you indicate your affiliation with the IUF. As we pass around the basket, please enjoy the song, "We Give Thanks." We give thanks for the precious day. Oh, here, and the horrible rain, for the salvation, Father again. We give thanks for His precious day. Oh, we give thanks for His precious day. Gathered here at the sorrow rain, I be shared with Father again. Oh, we give thanks for His precious day.
Yeah. Me again. Hi. Before I read the last reading, I just feel like I didn't want to stand up for voices and concerns because people have heard me talk, but I do want to feel the body's telling me to do this. This is not an advertisement, but I am feeling more and more deeply that the work I've been able to do in the last 3 years has only been online because of COVID. But I'm looking forward to making most of that work here on the island instead. And so I'm going to be soon opening up a women's circle to women who want to do the School of Kind with me. It would be the same 12 to 15 women. We meet every single week and we work on mindfulness, gratitude, joy, playfulness, and rewriting our stories. So if you're at all interested, just let me know. I would love to work with you. The last reading today is a poem by William Stafford, and I read this in my 20s, and it's been, deeply powerful for me since, and I think it's absolutely true. A ritual to read to each other. If you don't know the kind of person I am, and I don't know the kind of person you are, a pattern that others made may prevail in the world, and following the wrong God home, we may miss our star. For there is many a small betrayal on the mind, a shrug that lets the fragile sequence break, sending with shouts the horrible errors of childhood, storming out to play through the broken dike. And as elephants parade, holding each elephant's tail. But if one wanders, the circus won't find the park. I call it cruel, and maybe the root of all cruelty, to know what occurs, but not recognize the fact. And so I appeal to a voice, to something shadowy, a remote, important region in all who talk. Though we could fool each other, we should consider, lest the parade of our mutual life get lost in the dark. For it is important that awake people be awake, or a breaking line may discourage them back to sleep. The signals we give, yes or no, or maybe, should be clear. The darkness around us is deep.
Our last song today is This Little Light of Mine.
It's not in your hymnal, just close your eyes and enjoy it. And this particular version is Fannie Lou. Thank you.
We extinguish the chalice, but not the light that this brought us as we gather today. The reading is called As We Extinguish the Chalice. Try Again Tomorrow by H.P. Rivers. Patience. We may remember that the journey is just as crucial as the destination. For upon the journey, we learn what might have done when we arrive. May our journeys prepare us for what awaits, and may we be met with kindness along the way.
This now concludes our formal service. I'd like to give special thanks to Shona, Jessica, Catherine, Mary, and Robbie for participating and planning in today's service. And all of you online and in person for attending. We'll now continue the VIUF events announcements. If you have an announcement, please make your way to the microphone. Does anybody have any announcements?
So the open barn, open car, open studio is going on today and then also next Saturday and Sunday. And thus far, we've made just over $50 for Ukraine and Afghan projects. So please feel free to bring your delightful items to put on the table, and that would be fabulous. And the second announcement I have is that on Friday, December 23rd, we won't be, or on Sunday, December 25th, we won't be having the IUF service, but on the 23rd, which is Friday, we'll be having a service called Bringing the Light. And so any of you that have something, there'll be more in the newsletter about it, but you will be welcome to participate. So thank you.
I have an announcement. I'm just gonna do it from here. Takes a long time for me to get the microphone. Next week's program will be by the Transcending Mystery and Wonder Group. We're gonna be talking about darkness. So don't need to wait, bring your flashlights or anything. It'll be a good session. So looking forward to next week. Thank you.
Any other announcements?
There's two online. Saturday, December 3rd, 3 to 5 here for Amy's, she left. And then Sunday, Tanya is having a swag decoration party at her house. Those were the two from online.
All are invited to stay after to talk or to continue fellowship at the Berkeley Coffee Stand. As we go forth, let's all join in singing Go Now in Peace.
Thank you, Mary. Thank you, Cap.